right, good morning to you. Welcome to the first edition of Business Splash for this week on Splash 105.5 FM. In this package, we have for you stories on food security, manufacturing, electricity, aviation, and transportation. I am Charity Jerome. First, the news headlines. Nigeria records 485.51 billion naira fiscal deficit in January. Federal government subjects revised 1,525 megawatts Manbila project to independent review. Dangote commits $700 million to sugar production and hurdles for air travelers as nations OK vaccine passports. Details of these and more coming shortly. Statistics obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria have shown that the federal government recorded 485.51 billion naira fiscal deficit in January. According to the monthly economic report for January released by the CBN, the low revenue performance in January was due to the decline in non-oil receipts following the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on business activities and the resultant shortfall in tax revenues. Part of the report stated that federally collected revenue in January 2021 Statistics obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria have shown that the federal government recorded 485.51 billion naira fiscal deficit in January. According to the monthly economic report for January released by the CBN, the low revenue performance in January was due to the decline in non-oil receipts following the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on business activities and the resultant shortfall in tax revenues. Part of the report stated that federally collected revenue in January for 2021 was 807.54 billion naira. This was 4.6% below the provisional budget benchmark and 12.8% lower than the collection in the corresponding period of 2020. Oil and non-oil revenue constituted 45.4% and 54.6% of the total collection, respectively. The report said the total public debt outstanding of the federal government as of the end of September 2020 stood at 28.03 trillion naira, with domestic and external debts accounting for 56.5% and 43.5%, respectively. Meanwhile, currency in circulation rose by 29 billion naira to 2.81 trillion naira as at the end of March, from 2.78 trillion naira as at the end of February. This is according to the latest figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria. It stated that currency in circulation dropped by 50 billion naira in February from 2.83 trillion naira as of January. It had earlier dropped by 70 billion naira in January from 2.9 trillion naira as of December 2020. The CBN defined the currency in circulation as currency outside the vaults of the central bank, that is, all legal tender currency in the hands of the general public and in the vaults of the deposit money banks. The federal government is currently subjecting the 50% reduction in the Manbila hydroelectric power project installed capacity to an independent review. In February, the Minister of Power, Salih Mamman, had stated that the capacity for the Manbila project had been revised downward from 3,050 megawatts to 1,525 megawatts, as the review would save Nigeria $1 billion from the project. A document on development in the Manbila hydroelectric power project, which was made available by the Ministry of Power, stated that the government was currently reviewing the revised capacity independently to validate it. It stated that both the potential lenders, project contractors and consultants of the Manbila hydroelectric power project now believed that the project bankability would be improved by increasing the project plant factor. It stated that the plant factor was being increased from the current level of less than 20% to at least 40%. The management of the Dangote Sugar Refinery PLC has said it is committing over $700 million to its sugar projects to support the backward integration policy of the federal government to make Nigeria self-sufficient in sugar production. According to a statement issued by Dangote Industries Limited, the company disclosed this to visiting members of the Nassau House of Assembly on Friday. The company noted that Nigeria was one of the sub-Saharan Africa's largest importers of sugar, second only to South Africa, with an annual import of over $337 million. The Dangote Sugar Management, however, assured the lawmakers that with the completion of its sugar projects in Nasarawa and Adamawa states under the BIP, the nation would be saved more than half of the forex expended on sugar imports annually. The federal government has announced the dates to roll out the switch over from analog to digital television in Lagos, Kano, and 3 other states. While the digital switchover would commence in the 5 states between April and August, the exercise would kick off in the remaining states thereafter. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, disclosed this when he led members of the Ministerial Task Force on DSO on an advocacy visit to Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. He noted that the government had launched the switchover in Jos, the Plateau State capital, on the 30th of April 2016, as well as 4 more states, which include Kwara, Kaduna, Enugu, and Osun, and the Federal Capital Territory.
To transit from analog to digital television followed a treaty agreement that was signed at the Regional Radio Communications Conference in Switzerland way back in 2013. And the idea was that to usher in all digital terrestrial broadcasting service for sound and television by target date of 2015. This transition is actually aimed at creating a more equitable, just and people-oriented information society which will connect underserved populations and the remote communities, thereby bridging the digital divide.
Well, to the transportation sector now, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has revealed that the rail projects embarked upon by the state government will gulp over 100 billion naira. He disclosed this during an interview yesterday in reaction to the cost of all rail projects being constructed by the state government. Speaking further, Governor Sanwo-Olu said residents of the state should expect the rail project delivered by the last quarter of 2022. He also spoke on water transportation in the nation's commercial capital, noting that his administration has targeted a daily movement of 70,000 passengers.
I mean, I don't don't criticize my predecessor, but indeed, for whatever planning or for whatever reasons, he never just funded it. So when we came back in the last 2 years, right, the contractor has since significantly moved from about 55%. Now we're about 93-94% in terms of physical construction of phase 1. So we've also raised finance, for the rolling stock. It's a lot of money. It's a lot. It's well over 100 billion. It's largely government funding, but we have to use what we call creative financing. When you're doing creative finance and you're building infrastructure that are going to last 20, 30 years, you cannot be using short-term money. You need to also look for matching long-term funds to be able to and have the breather, so that you will also be able to pay back in the life of that infrastructure.
To aviation now. Bayelsa State government-owned airport has finally received the nod of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, the NCAA, to commence commercial flight operations. NCAA Director General Dr. Nuhu Musa presented the regulatory body's approval letter to an elated Governor Doye Diri at the Government House, Yenugua, after the NCAA team had completed the mandatory inspection of the airport and its facilities. Musa said the airport met all airspace standards and was 100% ready for daytime flight operations. The Governor's Chief Press Secretary, Mr. Daniel Alabra, quoted the NCAA DG as saying the approval was sequel to the report of the agency's inspection team, which prior to the visit had certified that out of 29 gaps, the airport was able to close 26. He noted that other requirements were non-safety related and work was already in progress to achieve night flight operations. More countries, airlines and destinations have endorsed the COVID-19 vaccine passport regime. This is coming despite vaccine hesitancy over issues of efficacy and side effects, as well as procurement challenges. The endorsement, currently pushed as a global agenda, is touted to impact air travel as it mounts fresh hurdles for the traveling public. Some countries, most of them with economics dependent on tourism, are pushing ahead either with real vaccine passport plans or allowing vaccinated visitors to skip quarantine requirements for entry. The private sector, most notably cruise lines and airlines, are also eagerly climbing aboard. Well, that's it for Business Splash for today on Splash 105.5 FM, your integrity station. Join us again on Wednesday for another edition. I'm Charity Jerome. Good morning. Thank you for listening.